The latest movie from the Russo brothers has come out. It's called The Electric State, and it's not great. Which leads me to question, who needs whom more? Does the MCU need the Russo brothers back? Or do the Russo brothers need the MCU again in their lives? Because since Endgame, there's been probably 2 movies that have been good in the MCU, and the person editing this might even think that's a stretch.
He's not wrong.
And the Russo brothers have come out with Cherry, The Gray Man, and The Electric State. Cherry being the best one of the 3 in my opinion. I think it was the realest story. And as we know, the Russo brothers are coming back to Marvel. They're going to direct Avengers Doomsday and Avengers Secret Wars. So hopefully those movies are good because Marvel really needs the boost. But it's not all bad. I do have some positive things to say. So let's get into it. So it stars Millie Bobby Brown. I'm not going to comment on how old she looks because I know she doesn't like that. Chris Pratt and Chris Pratt's mustache. The budget was $320 million. I wonder why Netflix prices keep going up. Now for context, let's talk about the 4 movies that the Russo brothers directed in the MCU. Captain America, The Winter Soldier, $170 million. Captain America, Civil War, $250 million. Avengers Infinity War, $300 million. And Avengers Endgame, $350 million. So only Endgame was more expensive than this movie. And those 4 movies that I just mentioned are all in my top 5 for MCU movies. So I do like the Russo brothers, and I think they have a certain skill, and that skill might be making Marvel movies. So The Electric State is set in an alternate 1990s. The war takes place from 1990 to 1994. They kind of brush past that part, and I think that might have been a more interesting story than the story that we got. But it's sentient robots, like cartoon mascots gone rogue. They lost a war against humans and got banished into a desert exile zone. But the humans used their own robots that were spurred on by Charlie's brain, Millie Bobby Brown's brother. Her name's Michelle in the movie, and that's basically what the movie's about. Her brother's consciousness goes into a robot named Cosmo, which was his favorite show when he was a kid, and they have a lot of memories and flashbacks of the 2 of them watching that show. So she learns that he's not dead. Her parents, unfortunately, are dead. So she's on a quest to find her brother that's not actually dead. So she teams up with Chris Pratt's Keats and his robot Herman, who is probably my favorite character in this movie. All of this sounds like a recipe for a blockbuster, right? Well, then why didn't they release it in theaters instead of dropping it on Netflix? Probably because they knew it would flop. And speaking of that $320 million budget, I wonder how much they had to pay George Costanza to come out of retirement and act. I haven't seen him in anything in forever. So I went into this movie with an open mind. I love sci-fi, I love dystopias, so I was ready for some fun, right? There were fun parts in this movie, but it felt like it was just copying other movies. I saw a lot of Ready Player One in this movie, and I did not like Ready Player One. I saw a lot of comparisons I'll explain later. So let's break down what didn't work. First off, the plot. It's a mess. Michelle's on a road trip to find her brother, but it's predictable and you can see every move coming. Robots show up, we learn he's alive, so they set up the journey with quirky sidekicks. It's Star Wars meets WALL-E essentially, but without the stakes or heart. There's no tension. I never once felt like Michelle was in real danger, and once the whole evil tech mogul subplot with Stanley Tucci, who completely phoned in this performance, it's like they Googled generic villain and called it a day. His plan is to control the world with VR helmets, and it's basically he's trying to recreate Tony Stark's Barf. That's what he's doing, so everyone can live in their happy, blissful memories, and that's what Barf was. And that's why Mysterio was so pissed off. While I was watching this movie, it felt like I was watching a remake, but it's not a remake. It's actually based off a graphic novel from 2018 from Simon Stålenhag, and fans of this graphic novel are everywhere. It's very popular, so I wonder how they feel about this movie, because the movie is a really sanitized version of it. And it's honestly trying to be a family-friendly Avengers movie. And every movie the Russo brothers have directed since Endgame, they've used at least one Avenger in every movie. It just feels soulless at some points. So let's talk about the characters. Millie Bobby Brown, she's usually really good in everything she does. I mean, I'm a Stranger Things fan. Enola Holmes wasn't that bad, but here she's just kind of there, right? She's kind of a blank slate, no personality, like outside of her determined sister vibe. And she's got no spark, no edge. Chris Pratt, I mean, his mustache stood out, but he's playing Keats like he's still Star-Lord. I got a lot of Star-Lord in this. At the end, he showed some emotion with his robot when he thought the robot was dying, but he's really phoning this in as well, and he's tossing out lines that are meant to be funny, but they didn't really land with me, especially when he said, "I don't want to die to Marky Mark and the Funky Bunch." I mean, I feel like that was shot just for the trailer, because that was in the trailer. And what's odd is, the robots in this movie are really the only ones that have life or character to him. Anthony Mackie played Herman, and he's fun. He's, like I said, my favorite character. He's got decent lines, but he can't save the movie himself. The voice cast had a lot of good people in it too. Woody Harrelson was Mr. Peanut. Jenny Slate was the mailbot. She was fun. And they outshine the humans by a mile in this movie. So when your animated sidekicks are carrying the movie, not a good sign. And that's probably why it costs so much money to make. I mean, $30 million less than Endgame, and that's the second highest grossing movie ever, which Avatar had a re-release to beat it. That's crazy. Now I'll give some credit where it's due. The visuals do look nice. The robots are great. They're cartoonish, but they're believable. Really good effects. But here's the thing. It's all style, no substance. The Russo brothers, who crushed it with Endgame in my opinion, direct this like they do not have a direction. The action scenes, they're repetitive, they're forgettable, and there's a big third act battle that's just noise. It's just robots smashing robots, and this can all be shut down. All of center can be shut down by pressing 3 buttons that are right out in the open in the middle of the room. That's all they had to do. Press 3 buttons. Michelle presses the 3 buttons, kills her brother, and it's all shut down. That's all you had to do. You didn't have guards in there. You're not going to have a fancy high-tech robot protecting that. Have 2 scientists that run out of the room as soon as they smell trouble. Now, I grew up in the 90s. They went for a retro 90s vibe, but it didn't feel fully developed. It felt a little bit rushed. You get AOL dial-up sounds, but it feels like cheap nostalgia grab, like the 80s movies that they used to make. Now they're going to try to make 90s movies. So compare this to something like Fallout on Prime, which nails the retro-futuristic vibe with purpose. The Electric State just slaps some 80s and 90s junk on screen and calls it a day. So let's talk bigger picture. Why does this movie sting so much? It's not that it's just bad. It's that it's a missed opportunity. $320 million is an insane budget. I mean, think about that. Think about how much money that is for a Netflix movie. It's one of the most expensive films ever. And it just feels like another generic Netflix content dump. No risk, no creativity, just a soulless algorithm spitting out a blockbuster wannabe. Like I said, if they knew this was good, they would have released it in theaters. The Russos used to bring humor and heart to their Marvel stuff, but not here. It's like they forgot how to have fun. So maybe them going back to Marvel is just the spark they need to get back on the right track. And the message? It's just like Ready Player One. Put down your VR headset and talk to people. Touch grass. It's just like that. Shut down the Oasis every now and then so people can go out and live their real lives. It's the same message. That's where I get the Ready Player One vibes. And all the VR helmets and everything like that. That obvious stuff. But it just feels like it's borrowed from other things. Which I know most things are borrowed from other things. But do it, like, hide it a little better. You know what I'm saying? The message at the end just felt a little preachy, was cliche, you saw it coming, you've heard it before, and it's tacked on like an afterthought. Now let's talk Giancarlo Esposito, Gus Fring. Sorry, I can't stop thinking about Gus Fring when I see his face. So he played Colonel Bradbury, the Jew hunter. Oh wait, that's Inglourious Bastards. The bot hunter. His sole purpose was to hunt bots, and he was apparently huge in the war, huge in the reason that they won the war. He had a badass gun that could not be fucked with, but he has this big come-to-terms moment with Peanut, when Peanut says, "Why are you helping me?" And he says, "Because I finally met someone less human than a robot," when he's talking about Stanley Tucci's Ethan Skate, who was brutal in this movie. He whined more than Travis Kelce did after he lost the Super Bowl. Look, Electric State isn't the worst thing I've ever seen, not by a long shot. I've seen some way worse movies. It's just not what I was expecting from the Russo brothers. I was hoping they would come together and finally make a good movie after Endgame, but they're going right back to Marvel, so I think once they go back to Marvel and make those 2 Avengers movies, they're going to be good. Because I'm a Marvel fan at the end of the day. I've sat through the bullshit they put out over the last 5 years. It's been pretty rough. But I'm still a fan, and I still go see every movie, even though I know they're not going to be great. So this movie, not great, but it's not Madame Web. Could have been worse, but it is still a letdown. Great visuals, a couple of robot quips, but a couple of robots can't save a lifeless script. Bland characters and a direction that feels phoned in. If you're a die-hard Millie or Pratt fan, maybe you'll squeeze some enjoyment out of it, but me, I'd rather rewatch Terminator 2, something that does this kind of story right. But what did you think? Was that too harsh? Did you catch the Electric State, or are you just watching this video to see if you should watch it or not? I would say still give it a chance. Like I said, it's not horrible. It just feels really bland, like a story you've heard a couple times before, maybe more than a couple. But drop your thoughts in the comments section. If you like this review, please give it a like and recommend some more movies you'd like me to review in the future. So, final thought, it's just an overpriced robot flop. $320 million? Really? That's crazy. All right. Thanks for watching. See you next time. Later.